Now, several world leaders spoke at a news conference just a short time ago. Let's take a listen.
This is not about North versus South. It is not about emitters or non-emitters. It's not about the rich versus poor, climate guilty or innocent, and the powerful or the powerless. It's about all of us, big and small.
Well, the challenge to the world that has brought us here to Paris is to make sure the global financial architecture can orient the necessary finance toward the essential tasks of eradicating poverty, combating climate change, and building a global economy that allows people and the planet to thrive.
And for more, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. So, Philip, what are the big takeaways from this summit?
Well, the first one is that no one said it was going to be easy, bringing all these heads of state and members of international institutions together to try to reach an agreement, some kind of global accord. But President Macron has been pretty upbeat about it all, saying that there had been complete consensus amongst all of those taking part, that the financial institutions need to restructure the way they are paying for the world to get over climate change and to make sure that it's not the poor countries that suffer and the rich countries that don't suffer, and that it's the poor countries that pay more than the rich countries, which are the ones that are causing the most climate change. I think there was pretty much agreement on all of that. You said it in your introduction that this $100 billion fund, which was being handed over by the rich nations to help poorer nations overcome climate problems. And the third point, which you also mentioned, was that I think that many of the delegates there brought this up time and time again, the issue of Zambia, which has a $6.3 billion debt, and that has been rescheduled. And one of the key points here was to make it clear that developing countries which have taken out loans to help rebuild their nations are now going to be eligible to have those loans restructured if they are the victim of a natural disaster, for example, and they can't pay and they go into default. That has been an agreement coming out of this summit in Paris. But President Macron has been questioned about doing away with debts that are owed by African nations, the developing world, for example. He said he was against that because he said no one would want to lend money if they thought afterwards that debt would then be written off and the people who'd lent the money wouldn't get the money back. So it was a question of rescheduling the debt, but that was something that had been agreed upon at this summit.
Well, this is not a binding agreement, and critics say the $100 billion pledge from these wealthy countries falls far short of the actual need. But how do we know that this isn't just another promise from these wealthy countries?
That, I think, is the big question. And all of the delegates taking part this morning, we've had a press conference with William Ruto, the president of Kenya, with Emmanuel Macron, the French president, with Janet Yellen, the US Treasury Secretary, and also a delegate from the International Monetary Fund as well, all pretty much on the same wavelength, saying this is a way for us to move forward, launching a dynamic, if you like, to move forward with this and then to meet again on a regular basis to see how we're doing. President Emmanuel Macron saying that his idea was that 2 years down the road from now, there will be another meeting in Paris with the same delegates taking part to see how they're getting on, to see how they're managing to draw up the support that's needed to help fight climate change, to reduce poverty. There's no way, President Macron has been saying all the way through this meeting, that the poorest nations, those who are the poorest, will have to choose between either being poor or fighting climate change. They don't have to be poor, but they should be able to fight climate change as well and keep their fossil fuels for the time being, but move slowly away from those fossil fuels towards greener, cleaner power. So all of those are the main elements on the negotiating table up for discussion here. I think it's interesting to see that there have been some proposals that are still being debated and there's no agreement. And one of them was on taxation of shipping, for example. Emmanuel Macron saying that the shipping industry should be taxed more because they're not taxed at all, and the money which is received from that could be used to fight global warming. The United States has said, well, it doesn't really agree on that, although Janet Yellen was asked that question just a short while ago, saying, well, the United States will examine that agreement. President Macron trying to say, look, we need to get money where we can to help fight global warming, not only from the public sector, but also from the private sector. If we all stick together in that, then we will be in a much stronger position to be able to reach those agreements and what is expected to be reached to stop global warming from becoming even more of a worry in the years to come. So some positive developments, but still a long way to go in all of this, Monty, before there is a full consensus all the way round.
Okay, International Affairs Editor Philip Turle.